Good morning. I think it's about the 16th of December. I don't know what time it is. Maybe about 10 o'clock or some in the morning. And of course, it doesn't get light here until at least like 9. But like I say, I'm not even sure what the date is. If you know me by now, I never know what day it is. I know it's Saturday. No, it's not even Saturday. It's Friday. We don't have classes supposedly ever on Fridays. As you know, I'm in Russian classes. Those of you that are familiar with my channel, that I'm learning Russian, but we're not supposed to be having classes on Friday, but a lot of time we miss days, and so we have to make that up. But today, this Friday, there is no class, luckily, so I can make a video. And coming to you, of course, from Baranovichi, Belarus. And what I really wanted to talk mostly about today was a lot of things about economics. There's been some economic news coming out, and it hasn't quite come out for the year yet for example, Russia. But all of these sanctions and things like that did nothing near the harm that they were hoping would happen to Russia. So, that's really fascinating. And they say that the deficit, I think it's a trade deficit, to the GDP ratio of Russia is only like 2%. And I believe that that's, of course, much higher in most other Western countries that have imposed the sanctions on Russia, which is very fascinating. And then I heard some other economic data about this country, Belarus, and it was looking at, the data was looking at countries to see what their GDP to what was it? It wasn't to debt. I think it was their, of course, their spending to their GDP, their gross domestic product. And there were only like 10 countries in the world that have positive. And Belarus is almost zero. It's at like 0.5. So they earn just a little bit more money. Their GDP is a little bit more than what their say trade deficit is, which is very interesting. Like I said, there's only like 10 countries in the world that have that, and all the other ones are operating at big negatives. So, big negatives, 6%, 12%, things like that. So that's a very positive sign. And along with that, I would like to say that it's surprising when you hear about this what do they call it? The deindustrialization of Germany. And a lot of Europe, actually, in general, because of the high energy costs, because of what they are doing. Their actions of cutting off Russian gas, Russian oil, and energy in general, to include coal, by the way. So, but they're still getting, of course, Russian gas and oil, but it's just going through third parties, so they're paying a lot more for it. And then, of course, as you know, some of these European countries are also getting American liquefied natural gas, as they are getting Russian. Instead of the just the real natural gas, they're getting liquefied natural gas from Russia by other means. Very fascinating. But of course, that's going to raise the cost of production much higher, and the cost of production in Russia is already, and of course Belarus, is much lower than it is in the West anyway in general. And when you start to look at these companies like automobile manufacturers and whatnot, and a lot of them are moving to the United States, and I would be asking why would they go there, as opposed to, or in comparison to, going to, say, someplace like Belarus or Russia. And it just makes no sense. Even though at this moment it's more positive in the United States than it is in Europe, but it's far more positive to be setting up in say, just for example, Russia or even Belarus. For any other reason why they don't want to come here, or don't think they should come here to these countries, is it's very curious, because you think that you are in business, to make money, and to hopefully do that in a humanistic way, instead of like putting children to work or destroying countries or the environment or something to do that. But in this country, for example, Belarus, they're very receptive to production. And I think it's only a matter of time when a lot of these companies are going to realize that, and I think there is possibly at one time, if everything keeps going the way it goes right now, there's going to be a lot of these companies switching to Russia and Belarus. As a matter of fact, if you discount the West, like Germany or even the United States, there are a lot of corporations and manufacturing coming from, for example, China. And China, the wages are going up higher. And there's a lot of differences to doing business in, say, Belarus, which is where I'm at, so I can say things a little bit with more assurance, to talk about Belarus than I can about Russia, for example. But there's a lot of differences, I should say, to producing goods, say shoes, umbrellas, or automobiles in Belarus or Russia, than there is, for example, even in China. And there's a lot of industry. I think automobile industries and everything, they're going to Russia from China, believe it or not. And the trade, I guess it's becoming very massive. And it's how do I say, it's acceptable from both sides. It's acceptable from Russia and from China. And I think I even wrote down some of these facts somewhere here. I never really go by my notes. It's how I forget to say a lot of things. I don't even know where I wrote it. It's just a big mess, my notes. That's why I hope to get a lot better when I'm in a position. When I move to Minsk, I'm going to be a lot more, I hope I'm going to be a lot more organized instead of being as I am right now. But I think the data said in 2018, the trade between Russia and China was it was 100 billion at the end of 2018, and it's expected to be at least 160 billion by the end of this year, and then it's supposed to be 200 billion by December 2023, and Xi Jinping of China, he is hoping for a target of it to be $250 billion. And that should tell you something, that he expects to be doing far, far more business with Russia. And I don't think that is just, maybe it doesn't even include energy. You're talking about gas, natural gas and oil. Because he's also, as you noticed in these past week, he's increasing his trade with, for oil, at least, with Saudi Arabia. So and I think the gas, natural gas, of course, because when the U.S. blew up the pipelines for the Nord Stream, and everybody knows that. It was actually probably the British that did it, under the direction of the United States. Let's just say it that way. But because of that, there's a lot more natural gas. Russia's natural gas is going to China rather than to Europe. And of course, that's the main reason for the deindustrialization of Germany. And, that's a really big thing. And you talk about whatever the production costs are going to be in Europe, it's just going to be mind-boggling. And then I was watching Alexander Mercouris, and he was mentioning that there was an article from the Financial Times, and they were predicting that within, say, 5 years or even before that, the technology of products in Russia is going to be vastly behind that of say, the West. Meaning, I guess, Germany, the United States, or France, and all of these countries like that. But I think it was Alexander Mercouris that was mentioning that the world is a lot different now than it was during the time of the Cold War. And he mentioned, of course, that Russia is very good friends with China and India and a lot of other countries where a lot of this technology is coming from. And that's where, massive trade. And these countries obviously would rather be doing trade with Russia than they would with the United States. And you see that the United States is in decline in so many ways. So this Financial Times prediction is going to be, a lot different, I believe, than what they stated in the article. So it's going to be very fascinating, and I'm sure most of you will agree with that. I mean, the people that watch this and watch the Duran and I Earl Grey, Mike Jones or Mike Rivero. I don't seem to mention Mike Rivero that much, but he's got a site called whatreallyhappened.com. Very excellent. The guy who's been at that for a long time. He is at one time he worked with Alex Jones, I guess, many decades ago, and he has got a lot of knowledge. He worked at NASA, and he worked in Hollywood and did like special effects and things like that. He knew a lot of these people that big movers and shakers in Hollywood. So, here comes a crew here. I have to probably get out of the way. But step here. Dobry jutro. We'll walk in the snow here. But yeah, it's all a lot of fascinating things, and a lot of these great bloggers, vloggers, I should say, not bloggers, vloggers. Annie Akay, she's seems to be on a Western. Well, she's on a tour event. She was in London, and she met with Alexander Makuris, and then she was in Istanbul, probably just as a layover to get to visit Russia. And I believe she's going to St. Petersburg, and that probably means that she's going to be meeting up with Mike Jones, and you should probably tune into that. I saw Mike Jones, by the way, on Redacted with a very good interview with Natalie Morris, and Alex, what is this? Morris? Yeah. But anyway, and her and her husband were there, and that was a very good to see all of those people together. But anyway, just pay attention to a lot of these people and their vlogs, and get a lot of much more plausible and logical information than the total crap that comes out of CNN and all this. Yeah. Along with that, I'd like to mention, I think it was CNN, I'm not too sure, and people are talking about that too, that they're saying again Russia's running out of bombs, and they can't seem to learn that Russia, is they have the technology. They're making these. They have these computer chips, and they're making them themselves, and I think they drastically increased their defense spending, which means, of course, that they're putting out a lot more weapons. And I personally have talked to some people that are not, of course, working at any of these factories necessarily or not, but they live in the areas where a lot of this weaponry is being made and ammunition, and they said it's a huge boom, and there's so many jobs, and everybody is working. So where they're making these bombs and things, and this has been going on. I think I talked to them. This was late summer. Was it late summer, or was it mid or early summer? I'm trying to think of the month. Yeah, but anyway, that was quite some. No, that was in late summer. In late summer, and of course, by that time, they had already been working for quite some time. So you can't believe whatever you're hearing. And I mean, it's like they don't even watch the Russian news themselves. CNN and all. And it's all, I think, just propaganda. And what they know the facts. I think they know the truth. And I don't even know the reason why are they trying to buffalo people and tell them fake facts. I really don't know. It's you remember the times in during a time of war, and they try to tell you things, and they dehumanize the enemy, call them krauts or gooks or anything like that. And I remember we were told in the Cold War, I was in the military, obviously, as I mentioned, and that they were saying how stupid the Russians are and all that sort of thing, and it's turned out to be drastically wrong as far as even technology and everything. The Russians have far more technology than what the West gives them credit for. They have robotics, and they have artificial intelligence, and obviously they're making their own computer chips, not quite as advanced, obviously, as Taiwan was, and that's why Nancy Pelosi was over there, as you all know. It was just as much for herself. As a matter of fact, it was more for herself and their wealth. She's getting her golden parachute because she's getting out of politics, And she was there, and part of her visit was, it was not just to upset China, you know, and to have anything to do with any governmental business. She was there because, you know, they're getting more heavily involved, her and her husband, in the computer chip industry. And she was over there to see how her investments were going. And of course, they're opening up a branch, that Taiwanese company in the United States, and all of this stuff that you don't really, you know, hear. You can hear this. I think you hear it a lot probably from Redacted, you know, with Clayton Morris and Natalie Morris, and because they're putting out a lot of stuff. And also, I saw a report. It was on Jimmy Dore, and he had Jeffrey Sachs. I love Jeffrey Sachs. You know, very conservative guy, and he tries to be very careful about everything he says. And you know, he's right in the thick of things. He's actually there and being commissioned by the government, believe it or not, and doing a lot of these investigations and whatnot. And I don't know, makes you wonder if they're going to somehow get rid of him. But you know, as far as I'm not saying they're going to assassinate him, but try to get rid of, you know, fire him or whatever, because if they don't like anybody telling the truth. And he didn't come out and say any real big information that could get him fired, I believe, because he is so valuable and so intelligent that I don't think they can afford to get rid of Jeffrey Sachs. But he was mentioning a lot of things about COVID, you know, and a lot of that information that everybody was talking about years ago, and it's all turning out to be true, you know. And they had the, I think, what was it? He was mentioning at some part of that interview about even himself sort of making a mistake. I don't know if he was the one. It was, I don't even remember the name of this, but they had a scientist reviewing some of the scientific evidence about maybe the origins of COVID, and it was one of the people that were involved in the origins of COVID. So it's like having the criminal investigate his own crime or something like that. So Jeffrey was laughing about that, and you know, but saying how unfortunate, of course, it was. You know, I love Jeffrey Sachs. So if you can find that interview with Jimmy Dore and Jeffrey Sachs, it's definitely worth it. And as you know, this, I don't know, I'm not even supposed to say COVID or something, not supposed to say injections or anything like that. But anyway, that's the reason why I came to Belarus in the first place. Oh, and by the way, I had mentioned in my last video that I was kind of disturbed because in the class I was at, we had to wear a mask because a lot of the people, the Chinese, were sick or something. But it turns out it's the flu, and we didn't have to wear a mask on the second day that I went back. So that was very good. And I don't know. It's still you know, some of them are sick and all that. You know, but it's a flu, like I say. It's not. They're having temperature, and nobody's really having any coughs. I don't even know if they're having runny noses really so much. Everybody has a little bit of a runny nose when you have this colder weather, you know, like right here. So I wonder what that building is. Very interesting. Looks like something official. I'm in the middle of a bunch of apartment complexes. So yes, and when and they are asking me also in my school if I want to take an extra month, you know, of classes. It's not like I would take the next entire quarter. I could as well, but you know, living still out of a suitcase and all that, I don't know if I want to do that. And you know, my whole goal is not to be making videos for YouTube or anything, but I'd like to be making a lot better videos when I have a desk that I can sit on, you know, and do some writing and things like that a lot easier. Be in my own atmosphere instead of, you know, I don't want to be complaining. Anyway, it's not really a great setup right now to where I can actually do things the way I want to do it. And then, of course, you're living in somebody else's home, and you know, trying to be a little bit more understanding. And maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but anyway, like my shoes, you know, you have, you know, as you can see, there's some snow running around here, and you get the snow sticking to your shoes. And even if I have to walk up to the 5th floor, there's still snow on my shoes when I get in. Putting them in the bathtub, and you know, older people, you know, they have learned a little bit differently than I did, and then they get totally upset and start yelling at you because the snow has microbes in it, and you shouldn't be putting it in the bathtub, you know, because I don't know, might get infections or something, but instead put it in the sink, you know, not the sink where you put food even, but maybe if you wash your face, you know, in the wash basin. So I don't know. It's anyway. Everybody has their own thing, and I have nothing against going by somebody else's rules and all that. But you know how that is. So anyway, it's personal kind of stuff. It's nothing to do with what's going on in the world today. And I don't know. Was there anything else I really wanted to talk about? Not to. So mostly it was this. A lot of this economic news, and it's let's see. Okay, I should also mention something about this Patriot system, and I remember my time in the military. That was during the Iraq War. I didn't have to go, but in any case, the Patriots then had some mild success of shooting down Scud missiles that Saddam Hussein was firing into Israel and all that sort of a deal, and some got through. And Scud missiles, of course, are very primitive sort of missiles, I guess. But that was back in the early 1990s, and when my unit, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, was moving, we were moving from the front lines. I was on the front line, by the way, right on the East German border, in the place where the Russians were supposed to be, and the East Germans marching through when they attacked, because they hate us for our freedom. But anyway, we were supposed to be moving to a different place, and it was in Rheinhessen, which is further on the western side of Germany. Beautiful area, by the way, right in the middle of a huge amount of wine fields. I can't even remember the name of the place because I didn't go. My time in the military was I was short. I guess they call it short, and I was leaving. And but I'd been there a few times, and they were moving into the facilities from the Patriot missile repairs and all that sort of a deal. And then you learn a little bit about Patriots at that time, but they're not so effective. And these ones that they're sending, at least I hear there's only one system, which makes no sense whatsoever. Where are you going to put it? You can probably protect a portion of Kiev with it. So that doesn't make any sense at all. But of course, you talk about mission creep, and it's already these what do they call it? The HIMARS are far more effective than the Patriots. So, and Russia was saying that it's an escalation. But I'll tell you, the only thing about an escalation is that it starts to open up the door. You send one, then you can send a lot more. And I'm sure the U.S. probably wants to get rid of all these old Patriot systems and send them all to Ukraine. And apparently the S-300 is more effective than these Patriot systems that they're sending. So it's not really much of anything to worry about. And then I think it takes a long time for these things to pack these things up, after you've fired off a volley, and they'll be destroyed. They might do some shoot down a Russian helicopter plane or whatever like that. Maybe, I don't know. And then they'll be destroyed right after that, because I guess it takes a long time to move them. And I'm hearing some of these other vloggers on, and I'll just correct a few little things here, that something like the HIMARS. There is not a 1,100 tasks you have to do in order to fire off a HIMARS. There's nothing in the United States Army that has one person has to do 1,000 tasks. For those of us that have actually been doing the things, not the officers and stuff that don't actually do the things. Of course, with the exception probably of Scott Ritter, he seems to know so much from what lower enlisted people do and what officers do. But then a lot of the higher officers, they don't really know. There isn't 1,000 tasks for one person to do, because I'll tell you what, you could shoot off 2 volleys in a day, and then what are you going to have? You're going to have some kind of a list of what's tasks number 641. Or was it? Did I do 640? Did I? There's nothing like that. You don't have. I'll tell you what. Even some sort of geniuses and with very high IQs, they couldn't do that. So they're not going to have 1,000 tasks. Trust me on that one there. And there's other information such as. I'm not trying to criticize these good people that are putting out very good information about a lot of this stuff, but when you have been hands-on and you understand, how things are in the military and all, it's that's reality compared to people that were not in the military and don't really know for sure. But there's another thing like these Patriot missile systems. You don't need huge amounts of people. You know, I believe it was 6 maximum, and then that's very easy, and you can possibly even do that with 4 people. It's sort of like sailing a ship. You know, sometimes you can do it with far less people than a huge crew. It's just a lot more efficient having a lot more people doing it. I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know anything about sailing. So, but I just know that that's how it is. You know, you can do a lot of things with a less amount of people. It's just less efficient. So, but it can be done. You know, and the most important thing about a lot of these anti-aircraft systems and defense systems is how fast can you get away after you fired off a volley, because then they can use the trajectory information and find out, and they can target you and eliminate you, and then your whole usefulness is over. So that's the most important thing. And the Patriot, it takes a long time, I guess, to pack these things up, so they'll be destroyed in a very short order. So if they're going to send it, I think it's going to be like a picnic for the Russians to do that. I'm going to show you this tree here in the wintertime. I don't really know what these things are, but it's like bushes that grow inside of these trees, and they're all over. I find that kind of fascinating, because I lived in the Caribbean for just nearly 20 years, and in Germany I didn't see anything like that in the trees when I was living there, and in the Caribbean obviously everything's green all the time, so I don't know. But there were times of the year when the mahogany trees and all that would lose leaves and such, and then get them back. Very interesting anyhow, because it's a tropical tree. But anyway, that's just some stupid information that I'll add into here. Has nothing to do with any geopolitics. But let me continue to say that if the algorithms brought you here, then you should probably think about subscribing and and hit the like button and all that before I end here. So that, I don't know, it pumps up my ego a little bit. Anyway, messing with those big boys like Mike Jones and I. Earl Grey or Redacted and stuff. I'm just kidding. Those guys they put a lot into that. They're very dedicated people, a lot of resources and all that. So, and I'm not like that. I can add a little bit of information to this discussion and all this too. So I enjoy doing that, and I hope you guys enjoy that too. So I'll just hopefully continue doing these videos. I'm not doing it for money or anything or any kind of a living. It's I guess partly hobby, I guess I would say. So, but thanks for joining me, and until the next one, I hope it'll be next week, 1 week from today or around that time. So thanks again, and like I said, till then.